we all, ooh, blimey. Are we all ready? I'll take that as a yes. I'm Nick Waller. I work with Pebble Beach. I'm on the selection committee, and I was very involved with putting the class together for the Aston Martin centenary this year, and we're really delighted with the cars that we've got coming. We're also delighted to have the CC100 as the American debut for the car, and for the Volante for the world debut, and we are really thrilled to be associated with Aston Martin. Great British mark, obviously, with such great history in racing as well as on the road. And we've assembled a class of pre-war and post-war cars. The pre-war cars, my goodness, I got very excited. We have a car that raced in the first British Grand Prix. Now, the first British Grand Prix was actually held at Brooklands in Surrey, and it's a 1.5 litre, absolutely beautiful. Lots of history, and we worked through the 20s into the 30s, and we have an Aston Martin Ulster, one of the team cars that raced at Le Mans. Aston had 3 cars that year in 1935 at Le Mans, all finished. They did very, very well. They won the team prize, and this car is LM18, and it's owned by Nick Mason in the UK, who still races it, and I think that's a testament to the mark, that the owners still have wonderful enjoyment from the cars. They're still raced in anger, and in fact Nick was racing it at Silverstone a couple of months ago where I saw him. He's restored it to exactly as it was in 1935, and I just saw it. It arrived by truck yesterday, and it's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Very interesting story. It's red, and of course British cars racing were often painted green, in British racing green, but this was painted red because Bertelli, who owned the company at the time, was Italian, but he was also superstitious, and he had this superstition that green cars were unlucky. So he was probably proved correct, because they did so well. Moving on into perhaps possibly the greatest era for Aston Martin in racing were the 1950s, and we have one of the most successful cars ever, the DB3S, the Aston Martin DB3S, which was built in 1954, and it's the prototype. It's chassis number 1. It has never been to the United States before. I think it had to get a special visa, I'm not quite sure. And it's been brought by a man called Brian Classic, who's owned it since 1975. And again, Brian uses it very well. He uses it in races and in demonstrations. It's in its wonderful pale green, which is typical of the Aston Martins. It's actually called California Sage in some circles. It's a very different green to the darker British racing green. I'm probably going a little too deep into this. I get very fascinated by the... I need to get out more. From the 1950s, we have another car from 1952. It's a DB3, which is owned by Martin Melling. And again, Martin, much like Nick Mason, races this car earnestly. He was at Silverstone a month ago, and when he finished the race, he sent it off. He got it detailed, put it in a truck, put it in an airplane, and it arrived. And I saw that last night. It's a thrill. That was driven by Peter Collins at Le Mans in 1952. Continuing that wonderful history of Aston Martin and endurance racing. Moving on into the 1960s, we have a Db4 Gt, which by all accounts, and I've looked closely at this, it is the longest continuously raced Aston Martin in the world. It was raced in period when it was built, 1964 I believe, and it has raced every year since, and its owner, Jim Freeman, still races it in America and in Europe. Beautiful, beautiful car. It's a wonderfully exciting moment for us to celebrate the centenary of Aston Martin, and as I say, we're very, very proud. Now I'd like to introduce Matt Clark from Aston Martin, and I think he will be saying a little bit more. Matt?
Thank you, Nick. Well, good morning everybody. I think this is where Pebble Beach Week officially starts. Wonderful honour for us this year to be featured, Mark. Our thanks to to Pebble Beach for hosting us and hosting us again this morning. As Nick said, it's our centenary year, so a special year for us, and accordingly we've got a couple of pretty special cars to share with you today. Behind us here we have one very conceptual and one very production, and I'll start with that one. This is the Vanquish Volante. We were here 12 months ago with the coupe, and we're back here 12 months later to show you the convertible version. This is powered by our new AM11 engine, 565 brake horsepower. And we'll be taking orders for that car this weekend with deliveries to start early next year. On the other side we have the CC100 Speedster concept. Now the only place you'll be able to see this concept this week is here at Pebble Beach, beyond the lawn on Sunday, and this morning of course. We created it to celebrate our centenary primarily, but also it looks back to that era of cars that Nick was talking about, and particularly the Db4, our most famous race car, which won Le Mans in 1959. But also it gives you some hints as to future Aston Martin design direction, and sort of lays some foundations for the next 100 years. So with that, I'm going to invite you to come and have a closer look at the cars. We have Julian Jenkins here, who's our regional director for the Americas, available for interviews, so if you want to do that, just look me out. But for now, come and have a closer look at the cars. Thank you.